By the end of that evening, I had transferred the deed to the venue into my attorney's name, revoked every trust account my son-in-law had access to, and held my granddaughter's hand while she cried into my shoulder in the parking lot. But let me back up, because none of that would have happened if the hostess hadn't looked me dead in the eye and said, "Sir, I'm sorry, you're not on the approved guest list." I'm 67 years old. I built my freight logistics company from a single truck and a storage unit in Dayton, Ohio. I worked every route myself for the first 4 years. Slept in the cab more nights than I can count. I know what it feels like to have nothing, and I know what it feels like to earn something. So when I say that standing on that sidewalk outside the Harrington Event Center, a building I had written a $48,000 check to rent, and being told I wasn't allowed inside, I want you to understand what that actually felt like. It wasn't embarrassment. It was something quieter and colder than that. My daughter Lee is 41. She's smart, she has a good laugh, and when she was 12, she used to wait up for me when I came home late from a run just so she could tell me about her day. I don't know exactly when that girl became someone I barely recognize. I suspect it happened gradually, the way most things do. She met my son-in-law, Craig, about 9 years ago. He was charming in the way that certain men are charming. All surface, no depth. Dressed well. Laughed at your jokes before you finished them. I had a feeling about him the first time we shook hands, but Lee was happy and I kept my mouth shut. They married 3 years later. I paid for the wedding. Not because they asked, they did ask, but because Lee is my only daughter and I wanted to. $62,000. The venue, the catering, the photographer, the honeymoon flights to Portugal. I didn't need recognition for it. That's not why you do something like that for your child. My granddaughter's name is Addie. She turned 8 in March. She has her mother's laugh and, I'm told, my stubbornness. She calls me Pop Pop, and she is the best thing in my life by a significant margin. When Lee told me they were planning a big birthday party for Addie, a proper one with a rented venue, catered food, a live performer, I offered to help financially before she even finished the sentence. $48,000. It covered the Harrington Center rental, the catering deposit, the children's entertainment company, and a custom cake that cost more than my first truck payment. I didn't ask for anything in return. I just asked to be there. "Of course, Dad," Lee said. "Your family." I wrote the check on a Tuesday. The party was on a Saturday in late April. I drove down from Dayton that morning. It's about a 2-hour drive. I stopped at a gas station outside of town, got a coffee, sat in the parking lot for a few minutes just looking at the directions on my phone. I was looking forward to it. Addie had been talking about this party for 2 months. She wanted a horse theme, not pink ponies but actual horses, because she's been taking riding lessons and she takes it seriously. I'd bought her a custom leather saddle charm bracelet. Had it engraved. Took 3 weeks to arrive. I got to the Harrington Center at 4:15. The party started at 4:30. The parking lot was already filling up. I recognized a few cars, Lee's white SUV, Craig's black Audi. I straightened my jacket, grabbed the gift bag, and walked to the entrance. There were 2 women at a check-in table just inside the doors. One of them smiled at me the way people smile when they're about to deliver news they'd rather not. "Good afternoon. Can I find your name for you?" "Sure," I said. "It's Harlan Beck." She ran her finger down a printed list. Then she ran it down again. She leaned over to the second woman, and they exchanged a quiet word. "I'm so sorry, sir. I'm not seeing a Harlan Beck on our approved guest list." I thought she'd made a mistake. I actually smiled. "I think there might be a mix-up. My daughter organized the event. Lee Duvall. Craig and Lee Duvall, I'm the grandfather." "I understand, but we can only admit guests who are on the approved list and your name isn't showing here. I'd need to check with the event organizers before I could let you in." "Could you do that?" I said. "Could you call Leigh?" She stepped away and made a call. She came back 2 minutes later with a look on her face that I had never seen directed at me before in my life. A kind of careful, practiced sympathy. Like she'd delivered this kind of message before and knew there was no clean way to do it. "Sir, I spoke with Mrs. Duval. She said, and I'm sorry, she said the guest list is final and she can't make any additions at the door." The parking lot noise seemed to get very far away for a moment. "She said that. I'm so sorry." I stood there for a moment. I looked through the glass doors into the lobby. I could see balloons in Addie's horse colors, brown and gold. I could see people moving around inside, drinks in hand, already laughing. Somewhere in there was my granddaughter, who didn't know her pop-pop was standing outside being turned away like a stranger. I thanked the hostess. I walked back to my truck. I sat in the driver's seat for about 10 minutes. I didn't call Lee right away. I wasn't ready to. I called my attorney instead. His name is Patrick, and he has handled my affairs for 19 years. When I explained what had happened, he was quiet for a moment. "Harlan," he said, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer me carefully. That $48,000 check, how was it written? Personal check, wire transfer, what?" "Personal check. Made out to Craig. He said he'd handle all the vendor payments." Another pause. "Did he give you any receipts?" I thought about it. He sent me a summary email, said everything was taken care of. "Okay," Patrick said. "I'm gonna make some calls. Don't go anywhere." While I waited, I called the Harrington Center's main office line, not the event desk, the main business line. I asked to speak with the venue manager. I explained that I was the individual whose personal check had funded the event currently taking place in their grand hall. I gave her the check number. She put me on hold. When she came back, her voice had changed considerably. "Mr. Beck, I want to be straightforward with you. The check we received was drawn on a joint account. The name on the check is Craig Duval, but the account is registered under both your name and Mr. Duval's name." I felt something go cold in my chest. I don't have a joint account with Craig. I never have. What I had, was a secondary business account I'd added Lee to years ago so she could access funds in an emergency. And Craig apparently had talked Lee into giving him access to that account and then written the check from it as though he were the one paying. He hadn't spent my money on the party. He had spent my money on the party and made it look like his. Patrick called back 20 minutes later. "Harlan," he said, "I've been on the phone with 3 people in the last half hour. Here's what I know. Craig has been moving money, not just from that account. There are transfers going back 14 months. I need you to stay calm and I need you to trust me." "How much?" I said. He told me. "I won't repeat the number here. I'll just say that when you spend 31 years building something and you find out that someone has been quietly dismantling it for over a year, you feel a very specific kind of stillness. Not rage, not tears, just a stillness, like the moment before something breaks." "Patrick," I said, "I need you to do something for me tonight." "Name it." I told him what I needed. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Give me 2 hours." I stayed in that parking lot. I got another coffee from the gas station across the street. I watched families walking into the Harrington Center carrying gifts dressed nicely. I thought about Addie inside, probably wondering where I was. She would have looked for me by now. She knew I was coming. At 6:45, Patrick called back. "It's done," he said. "Everything's in place. Do you want to go in now?" "Yes," I said. "I do." I walked back to the entrance. The same hostess was at the table. She recognized me, and her expression shifted, braced for a difficult conversation. "I'd like to speak with the venue manager," I said. "Her name is Connie. She's expecting me." Connie met me at the doors. She was a composed woman in her 50s, professional, measured. She shook my hand. "Mr. Beck," she said, "why don't you come inside?" I walked into the room where my granddaughter's birthday party was happening. The room I had paid for. The brown and gold balloons were everywhere. There was a spread of food along one wall, round tables with linen covers, a dance floor, a small stage where a woman with a guitar was playing something soft and country-themed. There must have been 80 people there. I found Addie first. She was at a table near the stage with 2 of her school friends, still in her party dress, and when she looked up and saw me standing there, her whole face changed. "Pop-pop?" She ran across the room and hit me at full speed, the way she has since she was about 4 years old. I held on to her for a moment longer than usual. "I've been looking everywhere for you," she said into my shoulder. "I know, sweetheart, I'm here now." I saw Lee across the room. She had gone very still. Craig was next to her, and he had a look on his face that I can only describe as calculating, a man trying to figure out how something had gone wrong and what his next move was. I made my way to them. Lee started to speak first. "Dad, I can explain." "Not yet," I said, quietly, without anger. "I need a few minutes on that stage first." "Dad, you can't." "Lay." I looked at her. "I'm going to be very calm about this, but I need you to let me do this." The guitarist had finished her set. Connie caught my eye from across the room and gave me a small nod. I walked to the stage. I picked up the microphone. The room began to quiet down. People turned to look at the older man standing on the stage holding a microphone at a child's birthday party. Someone laughed, assuming it was a planned speech. "Good evening," I said. "My name is Harlan Beck. I'm Addie's grandfather, and I have a few things I'd like to say." I looked out of the room. 80 people. Some faces I recognized, some I'd never seen. All of them were looking at me. "A lot of you know me," I said. "Some of you don't. For those who don't, I'll give you the short version. I'm 67 years old. I started a freight company with one truck and worked every route myself. I have one daughter, Lee, who I love very much, and I have one granddaughter, Addie, who is the best 8-year-old I have ever met." A little applause. Addie grinned from her table. "I paid for this party," I said. The room shifted. That particular quiet that falls when people realize something is happening that wasn't on the program. "I paid for the venue, the catering, the cake, the entertainment. $48,000 written from my account in February. I didn't mind. I wanted Addie to have a beautiful birthday. But when I arrived tonight at 4:15, I was told by the young women at the door that I was not on the approved guest list, that there was no room for me. And when they called to confirm, my daughter told them the list was final." I let that sit for a moment. I went back to my truck. I made some calls, and in the course of those calls I discovered that over the past 14 months a significant amount of money has been moved out of accounts connected to me, without my knowledge, without my authorization. I paused. My attorney has been on the phone for the past 2 hours. The transfers have been documented, the accounts have been frozen, and as of about 40 minutes ago, this building, the Harrington Event Center, belongs to my holding company. I purchased it tonight. The room was completely silent. I'm not saying this to make a scene at a child's birthday party. I'm saying it because some of the people in this room are business contacts, friends, people who have trusted my family. You deserve to know. I looked at Craig. He had gone very pale. I'm also saying it because I want my granddaughter to know that her pop-pop was here, that he showed up, that he didn't stay in that parking lot. Daddy was looking at me with wide eyes. She didn't understand all of it. She understood enough. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," I said. "I love you." I set the microphone down on the stand and walked off the stage. What happened next happened fast. Craig moved toward the exit. He got about 15 feet before Detective Ruiz, whom Patrick had arranged to be present and who had been standing near the back of the room for the past 20 minutes, stepped into his path. There was a brief conversation. Craig's voice went up. Then it went quiet again. Lee didn't follow her husband. She stood where I'd left her, next to the round table with the half-empty wine glasses, and she looked like someone who had just understood something she'd been avoiding for a very long time. When I walked back to her, she didn't make excuses. She didn't explain. She just started to cry. Not the performative kind, but the quiet, exhausted kind. "Dad," she said. "I know," I said. I didn't have anything else to say to her that night. Some conversations need time before they can be had honestly. I knew we'd get there. I knew it would take a while. What I didn't expect was Addie. After everything settled down, after Craig had been escorted out, after the room had slowly, awkwardly resumed some version of a party, after Addie's friends had gone back to their cake and their gift bags, my granddaughter found me near the doors and took my hand. "Pop-Pop," she said, "is Daddy in trouble?" I crouched down so I was at her level. There are some things the grown-ups need to figure out, I said. But that's not your problem. None of this is your problem. Tonight is your birthday. She thought about that for a moment. She was still holding the charm bracelet I'd given her, the one with the horse engraved on the leather. She'd put it on the moment I handed it to her. Are you going to be okay? She asked me. 7 years old. I'm sorry, 8 years old now. And she was asking me if I was going to be okay. Yeah, baby, I said. I'm going to be just fine. She hugged me again, tighter this time. We stayed at the party until the cake was cut and the candles were blown out. I stood next to Addie when she made her wish. She looked up at me right before she blew, and I don't know what she wished for, but she smiled when she did it. In the months that followed, Craig was formally charged. The legal process is ongoing and I won't get into the details, but my attorney tells me we are in a very strong position. Lee and I have begun, slowly and carefully, the long work of rebuilding what was broken. There are sessions with a counselor. There are hard conversations. There are also occasionally good ones. I kept the Harrington Event Center. I didn't plan to do anything with it at first. It was an impulse purchase made in a parking lot on a Saturday evening. But I've come around to it. I'm converting the side space into an affordable event hall that community organizations can rent at cost. Something useful. Something that gives back. Every other weekend, Addie comes to stay with me in Dayton. We drive out to the stables on Saturday mornings. She's getting good. Her instructor says she has a real feel for it. I stand at the fence and watch her work, and I think about the version of that evening where I stayed in my truck, where I drove home, where I let embarrassment make the decision for me. I'm glad I made the call instead. Some things, once you let them go, don't come back. I wasn't willing to let this one go. I've thought a lot about that parking lot, the coffee going cold in my hand, the balloons I could see through the glass doors, the way I just sat there for a minute, doing nothing, feeling the weight of something I hadn't seen coming. People talk about betrayal like it's a sudden thing, a door slamming. But the kind I experienced with Craig wasn't sudden at all. It was quiet and slow and dressed up as trust. That's the thing about people who take from you. They don't take all at once. They take a little at a time, counting on you not to notice, counting on your love for someone else to keep you from looking too closely. He counted on my love for Lee. He counted on my love for Addie. And for 14 months, that math worked in his favor. What changed it wasn't anger. It was clarity. The moment I understood what had happened, I didn't waste time being furious. I called Patrick. I asked the right questions. I followed the money. That's what I mean when I say that knowing how to think, really think, clearly and without panic, is not a luxury. It's how you protect yourself and the people you love when things go wrong. Emotions are real and they matter, but they can't be the thing driving the car in a crisis. I've learned it the hard way more than once. The harder lesson is the one about character, not other people's character, your own. Because sitting in that truck, I had a choice. I could have driven home. I could have told myself it wasn't worth the scene, wasn't worth the confrontation. I know men my age who would have done exactly that, would have swallowed it and called it dignity. But there's a difference between dignity and avoidance, and I've spent 67 years learning to tell them apart. Walking back into that building wasn't about pride. It was about Addie. It was about not letting the wrong thing win just because the right thing was harder. I think about the moment she ran across that room and hit me at full speed. She'd been looking for me all evening. She didn't know what had happened outside. She just knew her pop-pop was supposed to be there and wasn't, and that bothered her. That's what character looks like in an 8-year-old, she noticed. She kept looking. She asked me if I was going to be okay. That kind of person doesn't come from nowhere. She comes from being shown over and over what it looks like to stay, to show up, to not walk away from something hard just because walking away is easier. I can't control what Craig did. I can't fully control what Lee allowed, but I can control what Addie sees from me. And I intend to keep showing her. Craig got greedy and got caught, and the consequences followed naturally from that. Not because the universe was keeping score, but because dishonest actions leave evidence and I had the presence of mind to go looking for it. That's how it works. Not magic, not fate, cause and effect, plain and simple. You make choices, and choices make outcomes. What I hold on to from that night isn't the confrontation or the purchase or any of the things that might sound dramatic from the outside. What I hold on to is the candles. Addie's face right before she blew them out. The way she looked up at me and smiled, that's worth showing up for, every single time.